Hello and welcome to the Walk in Love podcast. I'm TJ.
And I'm Brooke.
And today I'm going to talk about being in Austin, Texas for Integrated. Thank you for listening. Thank you for making this part of your week.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
I mean, sometimes I listen.
Yeah, and you make this a part of your week.
Yeah.
So yeah, that goes out to you too.
Thanks.
I mean, it'd feel good if someone thanked me, but it doesn't need to happen today. For a split second, I just blanked on does a shirt come out next week? No. The answer is no. But then I just had to slow down and take a breath. And I just slow down to remember that the shirt of the month
is March 1st.
March 1st. Podcast listeners will get it. I don't know if it's a leap year or not. No one knows. It's impossible to tell until that day comes and it shows up on your phone. But when it does, whatever the last day of the month is, then you'll get access. I just had to slow down for a second.
Good.
But today is kind of a...
No notes.
No notes.
No notes.
No notes?
No notes.
No notes.
No notes.
No notes.
No.
It's no notes for Brooke.
Right.
I have notes from Integrated, but as I opened the book to the first page, I realized that I was very tired. Night one. So, because we live in Maui, all flights... actually, I'll get to this in a little bit. I'll get to that in a little bit.
Okay.
Let's start with songs of the week, or let's start with how's your week, or let's start with something else because...
Sure.
What do you want to start with? Upstairs or downstairs, babe?
Songs.
Are you saying see the world or sea world?
I'm saying songs of the week.
Okay. And you got one.
I do.
What's it called?
Shipwrecked.
Shipwreck by Emily Rowed. That's a cool album cover.
Rowed. Specifically like the chorus. I don't know if we'll get there, but yeah, it's like singer-songwriter. It's my jam.
There it goes.
I can pick you up and you can save yourself, and it hurts too much to watch you sinking like that. Sometimes I'm terrified I'm just like you. Can't lose it even if I try to. If it's in my blood, I won't run. If it's in my blood, I won't run. Every shipwreck needs a setting sun. If it's in my blood.
Good.
Yeah.
You know what I would love to hear people's thoughts on?
What?
I would love to know people's Mount Rushmore of songs of the week.
Ooh.
Baby.
I like it.
So we're going to post a podcast Instagram on Monday.
Yep.
And we're going to ask for your Mount Rushmores of the songs of the week. So go through the playlist or, whatever. But you will need the playlist though for it.
Maybe do it from memory.
Amazing. Wow. I won't be offended if Best Day With You, our song, is not on it. No offense taken. But what are you listening to if it's not?
Yeah.
That's good.
We will figure out how to unsubscribe you from this podcast if that's the case. But
No, we need more subscribers.
I'm kidding.
Tell your friends. Go. Here's what you need to do. Two things we need from you this week, and this is all we're going to ask. 1, Mount Rushmore songs of the week. 2, whenever your friend or coworker, stranger puts a phone down in your area, snatch it as quickly as possible. Like the second it touches the table, yep. Or maybe the subway seat next to you, or even if they have it in their hand and they're like, paying with Apple Pay, take that as an invitation to just snatch it out of their hands. And when you do, first turn it to their face so their Face ID unlocks it.
Yes.
Then go to the podcast app or Spotify. Search for both. If they have both, this is going to take you longer. Go to the podcast app. Well, here's what you do. Go to Google. You know what? Go to the Safari app, Google Podcast app, click on that link. That'll open the app on their phone. Well, no, it'll open a website. It'll say, we have an app for this. Do you want to open the app? And then you click on that button. This is simple. Then search Walk in Love with Brooke and TJ Macedas. Type out the whole thing just so you don't get we don't want opposing.
No posers.
No posers allowed. Then hit subscribe. So that's just it. Those two things, all I want from you this week.
And then use your only phone call to get out of jail.
Yeah.
So that's where you'll be.
I love the idea of, do you want to open it in the app? Yes. Okay, that was a good song of the week. Mine is from this band called Great Good Fine Okay, which I think that's a clever name. I used to listen to this band.
Yeah.
And I haven't in a while.
Forgot about them.
Kind of forgot about them. And so they just came out with a song called Someone to You. And it's good.
In the crowd, in my head, didn't think that I would ever get out. I was lost and out of place. Didn't try too hard to change, 'cause I never thought I was someone with something to lose. I never thought I was someone, 'cause I never knew.
I hope there's a lot of intense 80s, 90s dancing in that music video.
Yeah. There's part of me that every time we play the song of the week, I want to add my own like oohs and ahs, like real, like just back up from the microphone and be like, ooh, ooh, and see if people notice. And now that I said that,
They will.
people are going to listen for it every time. But sometimes it might not be me. Might just be the song. So yeah, both those songs added to the Apple Music playlist and Spotify playlist. So yeah, and then let us know your Mount Rushmore of songs of the week. I feel like I have a giant booger in my nose.
Ew.
Well, I just want to be honest. Do we have tissues up here?
No, but there's... I just bought a bunch of tissues at Costco.
I know, they've all disappeared. I'm going to pause it and then we'll, yeah.
Okay.
Booger pause. Man, that was tasty. So gross. So, Brooke, how was your week? This is no notes, so you're like,
Who knows?
it's a mystery.
It was good.
I was gone.
That's right. You were gone. That's what happened.
I'm so helpful when I'm home that she didn't even notice I was gone.
Actually, that's not true. Wait, I don't know what I'm trying to say. You were very helpful. And I actually was talking to somebody about that. But my week was good, minus my voice. Mm-hmm. It actually was a very good week.
And it's kind of had some ebbs and flows. So, we appreciate all the messages and the responses that said you guys were praying for Brooke. Yeah, I think we're just going to continue down the path of, we're going to get it checked out again. We're going to keep praying for it. Brooke's been taking better care of it with tea and all that kind of stuff. And so, but yeah, any prayers, we are believing for an incredible miracle that it would just be healed. And so if you can believe that with us, that would be super encouraging. But yes, I was gone all week and I was in Austin, Texas for Integrated, which is a business / dad / Christian group that I'm in, run by Jeff Bethke and Jeremy Pryor of Family Teams. And Jeff Bethke and Jeremy are both authors as well. And just kind of, great guys all together. Jeremy has much older kids. So he's like kind of we call him the Gandalf of the group. And I've been I've been a part of Integrated. This is my third year. So we're starting on the third year. I keep asking Jeff for some sort of Letterman jacket patch that I can wear to intimidate all the people who are there for the first time.
Smart.
I still have yet to receive that Letterman jacket, but...
Babe, I got a cricket.
Just
I'm Cricket, you a jack.
Every time there is a new members added to the group, I always introduce myself with these like cheesy glamour photos that I took in Supply in the white studio. Like I'm like kind of kneeling on and people are like, how do you have these photos? And then I respond to that question with another photo similar. The funny thing about this time is like the group has grown over the years, and now it is beyond the ability for a group chat.
Right.
32 people is the maximum in a group chat. We are bigger than that now. So we moved everything over to Slack, which is great because I love Slack. And I was kind of asking for that anyways, just because like when people send a book link, it's like, I don't want to scroll,
Right.
a mile back to find this book link. So we set up Slack, and you got to pick your profile picture for Slack, or you like, I think you can pick a different picture for each Slack that you're in. Channel or whatever, group or whatever. So I click through some of my photos on my computer because I'm sitting at my computer when I join, and I see a selfie of me with an air fryer, and I think, oh, that's a pretty good one. For some reason, I couldn't get it to upload. So then I keep scrolling. Oh, there's another picture of me with an air fryer. Upload that one, no problem. Did I have 5 or 6 choices of photos of me with an air fryer? You bet I did. And so Ian and I, so Ian is in the group. He's one of my good friends on Maui. We traveled together. And I'll get into that a little bit, but we got there early, before we could check into like the hotel, like it's like kind of like an Airbnb hotel thing that we stay at and like have all our meetings at. So we decided we were going to go play Top Golf in Austin. And 2 of the other guys were like kind of there earlier. They're like, we'll meet you there. One of the guys has been in the group. One of the guys hasn't. And so we're sitting down, we're asking each other, like, we're just like, Chad is there, who I know. And so I'm talking to Chad, and then there's this new guy named Walt. He's there. And he's like, yeah, so I saw your picture. You in the kitchen industry or? And I wish I would have gone with it and been like, oh yeah, my name's TJ Ninja. My dad is
Steve Ninja.
my dad is Steve Ninja. He invented So I'm an heir. And so then I meet another guy in the group, and he asks me the same question. Oh, so good. And I'm like, oh, I guess people really look at those profile photos. I didn't even know you could make them bigger. Oh man. So anyways, that was but I've been in this group for 3 years. It's just one of my favorite parts of the year. Brooke is like, go, just like whatever, like we don't schedule anything during it. We're like, it's very important to me to go. It has radically transformed the trajectory of our family. I do not think we would be in Maui without integrated. I don't think we would be practicing 7-day rhythms without integrated. I don't think we would have the emotional intelligence that we have without integrated. It's just been such a great life-giving group to me. And so I just love going, and it's like a business. There's like, it's part business, part family, part faith, and integrating all 3 of those together. Yeah. That's where the name came from.
That's the name of the group.
That's the name of this movie. And so, yeah, I just love it. I love it, love it, love it. And so this year, Ian is in the group. He lives on Maui here. Jeff is too, but Jeff left a day early to get there. And so Ian and I are traveling together. And when I mean together, I mean one of us is sitting up at the front of the plane, and then I'm sitting at the back of the plane. That's all I'm going to say. One of us has TSA pre-check, and one of us waits in line. And do I feel judged by Ian because of, do I feel judged? Does one of us feel, let me just back up. Does one of us feel judged by the other one because of this? Well, normally I would say no, but when one of those people, Ian, sends me a text that says, hey, since you don't have TSA pre-check, I'll probably just drop you off at the front, walk in, get a Starbucks, maybe do some shopping for some souvenirs, maybe get dinner. And then by the time you get through security, we can walk through our gate. But yeah, so we just travel a little differently. That's all. I did, however, get a whole row to myself. So basically like flying up front.
Somebody responded on Instagram and said, "Oh, my parents call that poor man's first class."
Yes. I don't think sleeping on an airplane is
Fun.
ever. But a whole row helps. And so, it was super fun just like traveling with Ian separate but together. We're in this together, but we're definitely separated by a curtain. Snap that thing shut. He just kept joking and be like, "Look, I got a DVD player." I'll take a menu. Sir, there's no food over on flights less than 3 hours. Michael, you want an egg salad sandwich?
Gross.
Could you have brought horse food on the airplane? But yeah, it was just super good. And the only thing that's different is obviously we're traveling from Maui. So almost every flight out of Maui is an all-nighter because you leave in the evening, you lose a bunch of time, you arrive in the morning of wherever you're going to go.
Yeah.
And so you end up in this like weird sort of like, I slept through the night because I slept on the plane, but my night was shortened quite a bit and it was an airplane. So my first page of notes looks like I was drunk. Like I don't totally know what I was saying or writing. And then like I can even just show Brooke, like, here's my first page. And then that's kind of the finish of the first page. And then there's my second.
Wow.
So it's like no joke difference. And I was like, kind of like, I was just feeling it, and it's like we get there, we did the Top Golf, we drove, we kind of check into the place, everyone's just chit chatting, and then we eat dinner together. And then the first session is after dinner. So it's like even an extended period of time of just like, I don't think I'm going to make it. But it's still just like, honestly, one of my favorite things I do. And Brooke's brother's in the group now, Taylor, which I love. And so I got to see him as well. And the other person, like there's a bunch of guys in the group. Apparently one of the guys in the group was an actor in Twilight.
Sure.
Like he was, I'm not going to say his name, but he's like, "Oh yeah, like we all introduce ourselves," especially the new guys, like they introduce themselves. And he's like, "Oh, I'm an actor." And I was like, "Oh, okay, cool." Like, I don't know what that means,
Yeah.
I can't recognize him, and now I see why. He's got different colored hair in Twilight, and he's painted white like a ghost. So it's just different.
Not a ghost, babe.
I don't know if you know this.
A vampire.
A vampire, yes. I don't know if you know this, but guys wear makeup in movies too.
Oh yeah, all the time.
Wow. Anyways, he was, but I was like the way he said it, I just love when you find this in real life. Like he was just like, "Oh, I'm an actor and I do a couple other things, I'm married," and like he talked about his marriage and his family and his wife more than he talked about his acting career.
Yeah.
And so I thought, okay, maybe like he's been in some commercials, or like maybe he's like, you go to his IMDb and it's like, one episode. Not that there's anything wrong with that. Like that's still super impressive.
Yeah.
A seemingly impossible industry to like break through.
Yeah.
And so then I went to his IMDb because obviously I gotta check this guy out. He's been in a lot of movies. Twilight's a big movie.
Yeah.
If you say Twilight, people know what you're talking about. So I was like very impressed. Anyways, and then the bigger deal. So I'm leading with the actor so I can finish with the home run. Yes, there's a gold medalist in the group. Yes, Jeff Bethke, best-selling author. We get it, Jeff. You're amazing. There's like YouTubers with million people YouTube channels, etc. But also in the group now in 2022, Brad Ellis from Ellis Custom Creations. So it's just, I was starstruck. I was flabbergasted. I was just in awe. Brad Ellis of Ellis Custom Creations. So if you don't know who that is,
people actually might know who that is.
If you don't know who that is, you're welcome. I'm not going to introduce him any other way because all of his other things are secondary to his Ellis Custom Creations.
Sure they are.
Look him up. But yeah, it was fun meeting Brad and hanging out with Brad. It's just fun being with all the guys. Like, I just love it. I feel like I come alive. I love making people laugh. I love having jokes during people's talks. I just love it. And I just come home just like super amped up. Usually I come home with like things to share about what I learned, but night one, I don't know what I was doing.
We learned that you were drunk. Possibly.
But night one, so I'll, usually like on these podcasts after integrated, it's like a no notes, but I'm reading notes. And so
It's like a brain dump.
it's like a brain dump and it's like a live unpacking because like I got in the car, when I travel or when Brooke travels, we don't communicate very often. Like we're not a FaceTiming couple every night. We're not a phone.
Terrible.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
And so thanks, babe. Love you too. And it's just like, one, it's, Brooke's voice is usually tired. And by the end of the day of watching kids, it's like, I don't really want to talk to anyone. I just kind of want to sit here and veg out. And so that's kind of just become like our natural order of business when one of us is traveling. And so
we text.
We text. And then we forget to share stories. So we just share the stories of the photos that we text each other. And so when I get home, it's usually like, oh, let me tell you what's happening. But she came to pick me up at the airport because the girls wanted to. And so I get in the car, the girls are going a mile a minute on their weekend. It's June's birthday today. And so like, we don't necessarily unpack this until we record this episode of the podcast. Yes. So it's like a live unpacking both for Brooke and for you. And so I think that is just like such an interesting way to do things. And I also love these episodes because I feel like the nuggets that I take away from I knew it as soon as it came out of my mouth. We tell a story about nuggets on the podcast. I forget what episode, if someone can tell me, but it's worth finding. I don't know, the doc. And so, yeah, and what we usually talk about, the things I learn at Integrated nugget takeaways are usually what we end up talking about for years to come. It was interesting. So Josh spoke the first night, Dr. Josh Straub. He is an author. He runs a brand called Famous at Home. They have a great podcast. He has a book coming out called Famous at Home, which you should buy. And he's got a bunch of kids' book. Like he's just an amazing dude. And like he teaches almost every integrated because he's a therapist, psychologist, I don't know. He's one of those. He is a therapist. Doctor. Yeah, he's a therapist. A doctor, medical doctor. DMD.
Classic DMD.
Classic Josh Straub DMD. Not really, because I think that's dentist.
So we learn.
We'll figure it out someday. Anyways, Josh always teaches because he's just so full of great knowledge. The first integrated, he talked about doing the 15-minute emotional check-in at the end of the day with your spouse. That at the end of the day, we ask each other, what was your most positive emotion? What's your most negative emotion? And then this allows us, Brooke and I, and we do this, I don't know if we do it every night, but we do it quite a bit, or we'll like be very intentional about like, how was your day? Like, not just like, how are the kids or what did you do today? But like literally, how are you processing emotionally what happened today?
Yeah.
And so this was 2 years ago that we learned this. And we still talk about it today and we still use it today. And so he kind of actually went through that talk again and just like talked about like how we have kind of two mentalities when we walk into the room, where it's like, here I am. This was an example. Here I am. Pay attention to me. Here I am. And that's not the way we should enter a room. And then the other way is, there you are. And so it's funny, like all weekend or a few days, people would walk in the room and be like, there you are. But it was like, again, just like the emotional intelligence and maturity of being able to connect with people and understand that they're emotional beings. And he even talked about like that 15-minute check-in, and like, I could see the new guys like, boom, boom,
yeah.
boom, boom, boom. And I was like, and then I could also see them like, it's like, oh my word, I've never thought about that in my life. That would be so helpful. And then a few of them started speaking up and they were like, okay, I'm afraid that that's going to take a lot longer than 15 minutes with my wife. And I was like, and with you, but I didn't say that.
Yeah.
And then I was just like trying to encourage him that like, yeah, the first, like I told him, I was like, the very first time I could barely even look at Brooke. I'm like, how was your positive emotion? What's your negative emotion? Like so tense and tight and worried and just like uncomfortable with that process.
Yeah.
And so that made everyone laugh and I hope made them feel comfortable. But like, I was just like, but then as you do it, the first couple take a long time. They're definitely longer than 15 minutes. And even now there are still some, like I remember one we had, this was even before we went home for Christmas, or went to Pennsylvania for Christmas. We had like a really long one that started with, what was your most negative emotion? And so I could just see their brains going off. And I think the beauty of that sort of practice is that what it does, and this is what Josh was explaining, is like it keeps you on the same page emotionally. And so that you don't end up having things build and build and build and then have a moment where like we need to get these emotions out because they've been bubbling at the surface. You have those check-ins daily or quasi-daily, and that really allows you, like Brooke, I feel like Brooke and I rarely fight because of this. We rarely have like an emotional, I don't know the word, like we really have like an emotional miscue because of this. Like normally I understand like, hey, she might need some time alone, or she like, because of these conversations. And so it was just cool to like hear him talk about that 2 years later and then be able to encourage the new guys and the guys that have maybe only been to one, to just be like, yeah, we did this and we do this. And like, it's incredible. And I remember someone, I think it was Jeff, just like that. I think this is my notes and I'm trying to remember. It says rule equals trellis. And he talked about how like the word for rule, a Greek word, or I don't know where it comes from.
Like rain and rule?
No, like a rule. Like here are the rules.
Got it.
Comes from like, is like rooted in the word trellis, which is what leaves grow up.
Yeah.
And vines. And he's just like, so like we put the rule in place so that life can flourish. And like, I just love that like, I think a lot of people when they're like, oh, 15 minutes a day, that sounds like you've made your relationship like a to-do list and it should be, and it's like, well, no, we're just setting up that trellis so that the life of our relationship can grow and flourish. And we do that in a lot of ways, but that 15 minutes is like a really good emotional way. And so,
yeah, that's good.
And then and then the whole week, you're supposed to come with one of your game changers. And this can be like one guy, like I have him written here. One guy has the RoboDoc with LiDAR vacuum. He's like, it vacuums my house for 20 hours a week. When I think about my wife spending 20 hours a week to vacuum and this thing doing it instead, that's a game changer.
Right.
So it's like that. And like one guy was like, doing this 5-minute journal with your wife. And then someone was like having a family team meeting. And then there's like a lot of books that are recommended. Like these are just the game changers from night one. Synchronizing Bible reading with your community. But Josh, during his talk, beat me to my game changer. So I felt like super
cool.
And yeah, it just felt super cool. It's like, whoa, I've not been in Twilight, but I'm not Twilight cool. I'm not vampire cool, but I'm like, Voice of the Heart by Chip Dodd cool.
Yeah.
So,
oh yeah.
But he mentioned that. And I was like, that's my game changer. And just interrupted him because I was like, I need people to know that I know this book. But that one's been huge. And like, he was talking about that one in like a way that like, that one really gives you the language, the healthy, deep within your soul, heart language that allows that 15 minutes to become even more like, even since we've read that book or since I've read that book and you're almost done. Yeah. I've read it first. It's not a competition. But if it was, I won. But we don't keep score in marriage. Because I would all
or quit because it's unfair.
But that book now has added like I think a robustness to that 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Because we don't have such a hard time like
being like how do I explain it?
Like we can go
sort of feeling this.
Yeah, we can go straight to the actual feeling of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so that was like a really good opening night talk that I wish I would have been more like awake to kind of taking. And I even drank a coffee like right before. Like I was just like, you got to get through it, TJ. You can do it. And then the other thing that really went well, if you're hearing this and you're like, "Ooh, I want to do this," I'm gonna set the timer for 15 minutes. It was like Josh was then like, or I forget, someone was like, "We need to remember to dose this stuff into our life and not douse this stuff into our life." And I remember that from the first integrated. I came home and I'm like, our whole lives are.
And I was like, okay, I wasn't there. Can you catch me up? Who is this Gandalf you speak of?
And so a lot of the guys, I think, were feeling that. And then, so it was just super. I actually shared something, and I'll share this on the podcast because I don't know if it's going to encourage somebody, but like this is a big group and there's a lot of people in it. And you might find yourself in a group like this where like, you're in a small group or you're in a group at church or whatever. And there's Mr. Twilight, there's Dr. Josh, there's best-selling authors. And then like, I feel this and I'm like, oh, and then there's me. I sell t-shirts on the internet, like
4 times a year.
yeah. Yes.
No, more than
that, babe. 4 plus 11 months. Someone will text us the answer. But like when I pray for people, when I've been praying for people in this group, the vision that the image I kept seeing, especially for like specific members that I was praying for, was like this group or groups like this are like a spark in your life. And it's almost like you need to stick with them to fan that spark into a flame. And I think what the group dynamic does and what living in community does is you can picture like a circle of people around a fire trying to start it, and we're all blocking the wind from coming through. Yeah. And that allows the fire to be, protected and stoked into a nice roaring flame. And I think what the enemy tries to do is tries to pull us out of that group and say, no, you don't belong, stand over here. And then that spark will eventually go out and die. And I think that, especially like as we look back at these 2 years of like extreme isolation, like you see that in people that are just like, man, that's just not good for us. And so whatever groups you're in or whatever people that you're in relationship with or community that you have, there are going to be times where you feel the enemy pulling you away from that, saying that you're unworthy and you're unwanted and you're not lovable enough or you're not successful enough or you're not handsome enough or whatever. And I actually said that. I'm like, we all can't be as effortlessly as handsome as Mark.
Our financial advisor,
yes.
Mark.
And it got a good laugh.
Mark is handsome. Yeah. That's hysterical.
I'm going to text him just that clip of this podcast. Mark is handsome. And so don't allow that to happen. Don't allow yourself to be pulled away because you believe the lie that you're unworthy or unlovable. So that was my encouragement in the first day, especially the new guys, because I remember being there. And Taylor told a similar story last year that he was just like, I don't belong here. And I remember feeling that, and I struggled with that in the past. Yeah. And still do. And so that was just like, I don't know, my encouragement. And man, I don't know how long I should go because like normally we break this up into 2 episodes now.
We can break it up.
But yeah, I'll share this part because I think this is good. So John Tyson was there too, who is an author and a pastor in New York City. I'm not familiar with him, but I think I
know his name. That's about it.
Yeah, like I know that he wrote a book. Like Jeff has told me about him. I think I've seen a few clips of him. He's much more well known if you have sons because he has this thing called the Primal Path, and he's written a book called The Intentional Father, and it's like much more geared towards sons. But he was there, and he like, and because he was there, and he's just like a great Bible teacher and pastor and encourager, I think Jeff and Jeremy were kind of like, we're going to let this guy teach as many times as you want. Like like not this talk, but the second night we were there, he was giving a talk, and he's like, I asked Jeff if I could just give 2. And so he was just like, went from one to the other. And you were just like, it was like a right hook and a left hook to your soul. And you're like, oh gosh. But he talked the first night, and he talked about like how, he talked about that verse where Jesus sends out the 72.
Yeah.
And the first question he asked was, can you name any of those 72 disciples? To which I said, Swami, Samson.
He had never seen them.
I don't think he'd ever seen them, and never, so it wasn't funny. Brad laughed though.
Yes.
Brad Ellis from Ellis Custom Creations laughed. And he talked about like how, that was the B team, and they had extreme success in terms of like, they go from can't, and this is just some of the notes I wrote down. They go from can't to having authority with Jesus, and they, cast out demons and healed people. And when they came back, Jesus kind of rebukes them, and he says, don't rejoice that demons listen to you. And so what John was saying is that they put results over relationships. and that they don't love people, they love the supernatural fireworks. And that was just like kind of, I don't know, like that was just like, okay, yeah, like if I, you know, lay my hands on Brooke's throat and ask for healing and it's healed, is my response, look at this cool thing that happened? Or am I just, or am I more overjoyed with the way it will impact your life?
Right.
You know, and I think
our relationship.
Yeah. And I think that is like always like
my rap career. Yes. Got him.
You know, Jesus didn't send those 72 out for supernatural miracles. He sent them out because he loved people.
Yeah.
And
relationship.
And then that love, you know, manifested in these supernatural things. And so that was just like super, like, that was definitely the most like sermon-y talk of the week, but it was just like, you know, why are we fathers? Why are we business owners? Why are we like, why do we do the things that we do? Is it for the glory? You know, is it for the income and, you know, the results and the look what I've done, you know, I started from the bottom, now I'm here type of mentality? Or is it because we want to love people? You know, and that's like, and he's like, you know, obviously there's going to be times where you screw that up and you feel like, you know, and you're just running your business because that's what you do and you're excited about, you know, making an income or having success or whatever. And he's like, and so it was really just like such a good encouragement of just like, man, why do we do Walk in Love? Why do you sell Beauty Counter? Why do we do the podcast? Like that was just such like a good, like heart check of just like, yes, this is so that we can love people. And it's not necessarily for the glory or for the downloads or the shares or all that kind of stuff. And so I was just like super encouraged by that. And then the one thing he pointed out, so he's Australian, which I also didn't know, the kingdom of God. So he talked about how like he was talking to his friend in Australia, who's like one of the most successful people that he knows. And he's like, how are things going? And his friend's like, well, I'm well taken care of. You know, and then he's like, and I'll ask an American businessman how things are going. Oh, dude, I'm crushing it. I'm killing it. I'm destroying it. And he's like, the American language about success is so violent.
Yes.
And so then every week, the whole week, especially it happened to Jeff so many times. Jeff's like, all right, I'm going to introduce you to the next speaker. He's crushing. Oh, God. So John just like ruined the way we talked forever and all of time. But it was just like kind of an interesting, you know, cultural tidbit. And so, yeah, I was just like super encouraged by, you know, that because I, you know, again, like you can get caught up in the success or in the self glory and focus on those things. And I think that it's, you know, it's good to just like always keep in mind the relational aspect of why you do what you do, whether it's, you know, for a lot of guys, like there are guys that have 200 employee businesses, you know, and that's a lot to handle. And so for them to like, you know, kind of be checked back into the relational aspect of it, I think was just super cool. So that was like day 2, the opening talk of day 2. And yeah, it was just super fun to be there. I don't know, any thoughts on any of that?
No, because I'm hearing it for the first time. So
I need at least a week.
Not my sweet spot.
And then you know,
I've never heard the phrase. What was it? Supernatural fireworks.
Yeah,
that's such a great
description of it.
For
yeah,
that, like,
and he's like he was telling us that he comes from like a Pentecostal background. You know, we have attended charismatic churches in the past. And I kind of gravitate towards that stuff. And so it's especially good, I think, when you kind of live in that sort of church world that like, are we here for the supernatural fireworks?
Right.
Are we here to be the hands and feet and loving people of Jesus, you know? And that's just like a good question to ask all the time, you know? There were a couple other game changers, but then I'll keep going. I think we have time. We're in charge of the podcast. I can't remember how long I recorded before the booger break. So now I'm not sure how long we've been.
Very long.
Not very long. Okay.
No.
So then, so it's always like, there's always like business, spiritual part, family, business. What does the B stand for? Business. What are we doing here? But this is something that I've wanted to incorporate since day one of Integrated, and we still haven't. And I actually was talking to Josh about this, Dr. Josh, DMD, and you know, he's like, "How are you doing?" "Oh, good." I was like talking to him how, like, you know, that was my big takeaway this next talk. And I was like, but honestly, I feel like the emotional stuff has been the focus over the last 2 years that I don't even know if we had tried to incorporate this, if we would have had much success. And so this guy, Blake, spoke, and he is like, he lived with Jeremy Pryor for a while. So he's like kind of Padawan, you know, like he's the young, I don't know what that is in the Lord of the Rings. I don't know. Does
the guy with the ring?
Bilbo? I don't know what I call. Let's get into Lord of the Rings talk. Hey, welcome. You're on the call. You're on a call with Lord of the Rings talk.
His name is not Bilbo.
Like Frodo.
Frodo.
Is Frodo Gandalf's apprentice? Not really. Gandalf doesn't have an apprentice. Gandalf was his own apprentice when he went from Gandalf the Grey to Gandalf the White. Okay, so
Whoa.
Jeremy is Gandalf the White. Blake, there's like probably 6 people who are like, this is the best podcast ever.
Well, tell him about Jeremy then.
Jeremy at one point ran the biggest Lord of the Rings memorabilia eBay shop before before the movies came out. I think he got sued by Universal because like he was selling all this stuff before it was cool.
Yeah.
Anyway, so Gandalf the Grey gives this talk on how he does family meetings. So he comes from like the startup world, and the like, you know, they have their own like version of language, but he would basically leave his job at a startup, and he was like his startup was incubated with like MeUndies and Dollar Shave Club and like some of these big, huge brands, and he sold it. And so like, you know, it's a cool story. But he would often feel like, man, I come home from this world built with structure, and I don't have any of it home. Yep. And so he was like, so I kind of doused my wife by coming home and being like, here's what we're going to do. I wouldn't recommend it. But he gave a talk on how they do weekly, quarterly, and annual meetings. And I just feel like that is...
I'm so excited.
I know. And he had a spreadsheet, and I was just like, man, Brooke is she's going to love me. She's just going to love everything about this. And I kept thinking, like, you know, again, we talked about this integrated day one, not to the degree of detail that Blake talked about at this time, but I just remember feeling like, man, I want all of this, but this is going to be super hard. And it's just like, it was one of those things that like we focused on Sabbath, 7-day rhythm, and we focused on emotional communication.
Health, yeah.
And I feel like those were the 2 really good places to start. But what I felt like when he was talking about this, and like he, you know, I didn't take very many notes because he's like, I'm going to share you this PowerPoint that I have, PowerPoint, with all of you. And so I was like, deal. I don't have to write anything down. But I did write down this one thing. My family is my organization. And just like that mentality is just so important in terms of like, my business is my organization, but so is my family. And if I take care in how the systems work in my business, I should take care of how the systems work in my family. But anyways, this whole time he was talking, I was like, I feel like we are ready for this. We are ready for these weekly meetings. We are ready for these quarterly meetings. We are ready for these annual meetings. And I feel like that step into being more structured, which is definitely harder for me at times, is the same step that you are taking the other way to be like, yeah, I'm going to give surfing a try. Or, yes, I'm going to jump right in the ocean, maybe without even goggles on. No. You know, and I just feel like that was so encouraging me to see that, and to be able to be like, and to be able to name it and be like, this is intimacy. This is sacrifice for each other. Showing up in the way, like,
because when we did our episode on reboot, reset, what did we call it? Like, I didn't fully have the language then, but that's what I was talking about. Yeah. Like, I'm ready to start over to do things like this. Yeah. Because I felt like we needed it. We needed the structure.
And so, so we're going to start tinkering with that. And what was cool is like, he's like, I've been doing this for 5 years now, and this is what I found is best. And so like, and he's like, honestly, like, this isn't for everyone. The way we do it might not be for you, but doing it and trying and tinkering. And I honestly feel like that is like my favorite word from Integrated is like tinkering. And all the men in this group are tinkering with not just their businesses, which is kind of natural in business. It's like, oh, let's see if this will work better, if this will work, that just kind of happens, but you rarely see it in family. Like in our family.
Oh yeah, family. So like set it and forget it.
Set it and forget it, or set it and let it like diminish. It's not even like set it and try to hold to setting it. It's like set it and if it works, it works. And it's just like, that's so sad to me. And so I was just super encouraged by that. And honestly, like, I think what is just most fascinating to me is like, you can read Jeff's book, Get Your Family Back, or Take My Family Back. I forget the title. It's green. Get Your Family Back. Take Your Family Back. Get Your Life Back is the book we're reading now.
Yes.
Take Your Family Back. Jeremy also has a book called Family Revisions. Like, it feels like
Take Back Your Family.
Take Back Your Family. There it is. We'll link it in the show notes. It feels like, like Family Revisions is what I read first, and that's Jeremy's book. And it just feels like when you read stuff like this, you're like, oh, why wasn't I taught this? Why isn't this the central focus of church? Like, and there's a point where it kind of makes you angry. Yeah. And then obviously you have to have grace and just like, I think things are moving so quickly in the world that it's like hard to be like, wait, let's just pause. We aren't the Amish. We don't just pause and say, what do we think about this as a community?
Yeah.
It's more like, let's just try to catch up, or let's just try to like integrate it, or, whatever. And so we end up just like super off course. And so what I love about this group is it feels like, and I told this to Jeremy, I was like, you are like this really weird rock star that like, we're all here for you. Like, we're all here because of just like this like ancient idea that you are now have brought back to modern society. And we all have like, not just been like, oh, I'll listen to a podcast episode about this. We have reoriented the entire way we do life and work together so that we can experience what you have been experiencing for 20 years. And one of the coolest parts is like, we had a nice dinner the last night at the steakhouse. And Jeremy, and he always brings some of his family. Usually it's his son and his cousin, or his son is his nephew, to like help with the food and stuff like that. Well, both his son and his nephew are in YWAM. And so he brought his two daughters. And so there's an 18-year-old daughter and a 13-year-old daughter sitting with their dad at this table with all these men that are just come to listen to him. And you ask them questions about their childhood and the things that they did and liked and didn't like. And they are just like all in on being a family.
Yeah.
And to me, that is the thing that I'm just like, I want that. And he talks about like, there's cotton candy happiness. He used to tell his son this. There's cotton candy happiness and there's grandfather happiness. And the world is trying to sell you cotton candy happiness. They want you to be hyper individual and have this specific cotton candy that you like no matter what. And then you can give the one you like to your boy likes or your daughter likes or whatever.
Yep.
And he's like, but grandfather happiness is sitting at a table with your sons and your daughters and your sons-in-laws and your daughters-in-laws and their children. And it's just like, it gives you chills.
Yeah.
And so like, I just find it just so encouraging to be a part of something like this. And so like, I don't know how big they're going to grow the group. Honestly, I don't know like if anybody's allowed back in or whatever. I just keep signing up because they keep letting me. But it's like, I would encourage you, especially you 8 guys listening, to just like dive into like what Jeremy is talking about. Like read his book. They got the Family Teams podcast. Like he's been interviewed by a bunch of churches because it's just like, it's so incredibly fascinating. And it's just like, the more I'm involved and the more, I've seen him kind of live this out for 3 years, he's been living it out a lot longer, but like, it's just so cool. It's just so cool. And I just like have to laugh that like we're this group of, like we got in the Uber to go to the, to go to the airport. And this girl's like, hey, what are you in Austin for? Bachelor party? And we're like, no, it's, are you here for work? And she's like, she goes, you guys have the look of people that make TikToks. It's like, thanks, I guess. And it's like, she never actually really asked. She just like was kind of just like a chatty Uber driver.
Yeah.
But I'm just like, what I would say is like, we're in town to learn how to raise a multi-generational family from a guy that used to sell Lord of the Rings merch. Like, it's amazing. And I just like, I don't know. I'm just super encouraged by it. So that was kind of that was like the first day. And I was really just honestly first night and like halfway through the second day. But yeah, I don't know. I can't get enough of it.
Same.
Yeah. And I just and Brooke doesn't even get to go, but I just feel like, don't you feel like what we've learned there, what I've learned and brought back and have tried to like, explain has been life-changing?
Yes.
And don't you feel like every year that I come back, it's like, cause like the first year I went, I was like, oh man, I don't know what to expect. And then the second year it was like, oh man, I really hope that they dive deeper into, XYZ.
Yeah.
Or I hope I get to learn something about this. And now the third year, I just like feel just blessed and just like, I just like sitting and talking to people in the room. And it's just like, I don't know. I just feel fortunate for it. So, but that was it for day 1.5.
I love it.
Why are you smiling so much?
I just do. And that you're not even done is like so cool.
Yeah. And so I think that's it. I think I don't think I can go into the next kind of stuff, but yeah. Any questions you guys may have about it, you could ask on the podcast Instagram. We're going to, no, I don't have any other news. Do you have any other news? I don't think I have any other news.
No, I don't think so.
It was June's birthday today. She turned 7.
Jeez.
Brooke did this really cool thing, so I'll actually share 2 things. I'm going. Now I'm in the flow. Like, so years ago we started the birthday corner, and I could tell right away that there was something kind of magical to it, that like it gave your birthday this Christmas feel. And so if you guys don't know what the birthday corner is, we designate a corner in our house. Really, it can be a wall or really any place in your house where like it's decorated for someone's birthday. So like last night before, after June went to bed, we blew up balloons. She loves dinosaurs. So we have a dinosaur balloon, a big 7 balloon. Like, we lay presents in there. It definitely gives this like Christmas environment to your birthday. And we do it for whoever's birthday's in the house. And I just like, it was always just this magical like thing that happened. And then I realized, the last few times there's actually this really incredible thing that has happened on top of just like the Christmas vibes for birthdays. And that is that June wants to stay up late to decorate Sunny's corner. And last night was the first night that Sunny stayed up late to decorate June's corner. And it's just this like magical moment where for the first time, I saw like, man, my team has a thing. Yeah. And my team, the second youngest member of our team is all in for her older sister.
Yeah.
And that was just like this really cool moment, especially after coming off integrated, where I'm sitting at the end of the table and talking to Jeremy's daughters and they're talking about like just growing up and all these things that he tried. And it's just like, and you can just tell that they love each other and they're connected and they're going to be connected for many, many years to come. And I was just like, and when I got home and Sunny stayed up late for her first birthday corner decorating side, it was just this really cool moment. And so I'm going to share that with the group as just like, man, game changer.
Yeah.
And so that was just really, really, really cool. And then Brooke did something unique tonight. So like I have this old album on my phone called June. I haven't updated it in forever.
Photo album.
And so I airdropped them to the TV screen and just swiped through baby photos of June. And then Brooke was like, I just searched June's birthday. I'm not gonna say it. And so it just showed photos from that day. And so it was like birth, literally like brand new baby.
Yeah.
And then it was like, bam, 1-year-old. And then it was like 1, bam, 2-year-old. And it was just like so cool to like just see those days and like what we chose to take a picture of or screenshot that day.
Yeah.
But then like what blew our mind was like 6 in Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
We've got these 2 like kind of like round face babies
Yeah.
So like the swipe from 6 to 7, both for June and Sunny,
Was nuts.
it was like we swipe back and forth for a few
I'm like,
times.
we're missing a year.
We're like, this has got to be wrong. And I'm like, no, we're holding up 6 fingers in that photo. And so it's just like this moment of like, man, our kids are growing up. That is weighty and heavy and beautiful. And I want to set my life up in a way that I'm there for it.
Yeah.
And so I was just like, so the back-to-backness of like the birthday corner setup with Sunny and then the 6 to 7 swipe the next day was just like enough for my little heart on top of integrated that I was like, oh my word, my family's so important. I got to do all the things. Brooke, we're doing all the things. And then it's like, no, we can just pick a couple of these and then build upon them like a trellis. Wow.
What?
Thank you for listening. Thank you for making us part of your week. Okay, I love you. Bye.